Hello, welcome back to Color and Canvas. And this morning I am telling you about pouring medium. Pouring medium is what we mix our paint with to go from this to this. It has to flow. The paint has to be liquid, not watery, but it has to flow. It has to be almost like honey. So how do we get this paint out of the tube to be like that? Well, we use pouring medium. So let me talk to you about which pouring mediums you can use and, your different options. There are a lot of different options, believe me. So here we go. What do I use? I'm in Canada. My favorite pouring medium is Phloetrol. This is actually not an art supply. This is something that you buy at the paint store. Professional painters actually add it to their paint so that it rolls nicely on the wall and sprays nicely out of their spray guns. But also, if you mix it with your paint, it is now fluid and it pours, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So this is what I like to use. You may not have this even available where you live, depending on what country you're in or even what's available at your store at the moment. So another option is using glue. And glue makes an excellent pouring medium. Elmer's Glue All. This is preferred. This is a PVA glue. It is preferred to using school glue. But you can use school glue. If all you have is regular white glue, that's all you have access to, you can absolutely use it. This is preferable if you can get it, but this is absolutely good. So remember, it's a PVA glue if you can get it, and school glue if you cannot. And you mix this with plain old water. I use distilled water. You do not have to use distilled water, but I have a lot of minerals in my water where we live, and sometimes after a while, if you have a lot of iron in the water, it might leave a bit of a red tint on white paint. So I prefer to use distilled just for myself. If your tap water is really nice and clean and you don't have a lot of minerals, tap water is perfectly good. So even if you do have minerals, you may not notice it. So, I'm encouraging you to try. It's never going to be perfect. So, go with what you have. So water and glue makes an excellent pouring medium, and I will show you how to mix that in a moment. Other options, there are many commercially sold pouring mediums now. Liquitex pouring medium. This is wonderful. This is just an amazing product. I saved this for my best paintings because it is a little expensive. And, it depends on what your budget is. If your budget is healthy, go for it. I highly recommend getting this. You'll mix this and add a little bit of water into your paint, and it's just so smooth, and there's less chance of the paint cracking later, especially if it was the right consistency of paint, which we will discuss on another video. This is a new one. I haven't even tried it yet. I just got it. Pouring medium, you're going to find now as this kind of art grows that there's going to be many, many different brands. And depending on where you live and what your budget is, you'll have to decide which one you want to use. But believe me, just because you see an artist use one doesn't mean that you cannot paint unless you have exactly the same supplies. You're going to have to use what's available to you, learning the consistency of the paint, learning the pouring techniques. That's almost more important than the supplies. You will have different results, but you still can make a painting. So keep that in mind. So let's talk about Phloetrol. Love the stuff. Phloetrol is almost always lumpy in the bottle. Whatever the ingredients are, they will, clump up and you get globs coming out, and you don't want blobs of things in your paint. So I just give it a little spin here. I'm not going to shake it like crazy. I'm just going to twist it around. You can see I buy it by the gallon because I use a lot. So, but it needs to be strained. Let me get an empty cup. I add water in that one. Okay, so I'm going to strain it through a very fine strainer right into the cup, very slowly. Just to show you, and chances are there won't be anything in it because we're near the bottom and I've probably already poured out all the lumps. But I don't know if you can see right there, there's a white little lump right there. And that would have mixed in with your paint, and that would have left some residue behind, you know, would have been a little lump in your paint on your canvas, which we don't want. So there, I don't know if you can see that or not, but trust me, it's there. There's a little lump there, and now there's not. So perfect, right? This straining your pouring medium. You don't need, or straining Phloetrol. You don't really need to strain water and glue. Water rarely has lumps in it unless you're, or sorry, glue rarely has lumps in it unless you're using old glue with dried bits around the side of it. So keep that in mind. But let's mix some glue and water so that you can see how that goes. Grab myself a popsicle stick. And we'll just mix a little bit. And let me show you, if you're not sure how to mix, some people will weigh the paint and water on a scale, or sorry, the water and the glue. They will weigh the water and the glue on the scale. I don't. Some people literally measure with water and then make a mark, and then they know how much glue, how much water. There's another option too, if you're not doing those things, is sometimes you can measure just like that. So pour some of the glue. I'm going to use the little bottle just because it's easier to manage for demonstrating. Use your glue first. Oops. So one glue. Pour it into your cup. Now I like to use 2 parts glue to 1 part water. So I'm going to do 1 more of these. There we go. And that's a really, really easy way to do it, to keep track, because you just have to count how many little cups you used. So there, now we have all the glue in there. And now we have to add our water. And here's the other piece of advice that I will give you if you're using water and glue, is to not pour all the water in at once. So I'm going to fill my cup with my distilled water that I put in my little bottle here. But I'm not going to pour it all in at one time. I'm going to do it a little bit at a time. That way you don't end up having too many lumps, because you go gradually. If you just dump it all in, you're going to be stirring forever, and you might still have little lumps of glue where it's not well blended with the water, and you don't want that. And that's the same advice that I will give you for when you're doing paint, is you want to add your pouring medium gradually so that you don't get lumps. So get the rest of the water in. Give it a good stir. This is going to be thinner than the Phloetrol, but it'll work really, really well as a pouring medium. And so there we are. So now we have 2 kinds. We have Phloetrol and we have glue and water. Either one of them is absolutely fantastic. You can use either one, and most people will have access to one, one or the other. And so yeah, you can paint. So let's paint. I'm going to reuse this rather than washing it. Let's mix some paint so that you can actually see us do this, okay? So what are we going to do? Let's mix some blue. And I will mix it the exact same way as I showed you before. After a while, you will be able to tell exactly how much paint you have and exactly what you're doing just by looking at it. After, with experience comes ability. It's just like people that can cook without measuring everything because they've done it 1,000 times. You'll get good at mixing paint as well. So we'll put the paint in the cup. add that right in. So now we've put in 3 times the amount of Phloetrol as paint. Okay? And there, now you can see it leaves a little mound, but the mound disappears in a few seconds. This is a relatively thick paint for pouring. This would be really nice to do a ring pour. You would want it thinner if you were doing a straight pour. So these are things that you will learn as you get experience, as you watch other artists do things. So there, we have our paint and our Phloetrol. So let's now mix something with our glue and water. Okay, I'm going to mix together some of this gold because I need some, because I'm nearly out. So I'm going to mix our 24 karat gold, one of my favorite colors. 24 karat gold is, even though it doesn't look thicker, it has a lot more pigment in it than the tube paint that we just used. So we'll be able to use a lot more pouring medium with this paint than we did with the blue paint. Let's get that in the cup. Look how shiny that is. This is what I mean about the specialty paints. They're absolutely amazing. You're rarely going to find a paint at the art store, you know, that is meant for, you know, brushing with a brush. You're not going to find anything that looks like this. It's quite outstanding. All right, so let's get that into the cup and get our pouring medium going. We have a little bit of Phloetrol left, so I'm going to use it. Just because I think we have like one, barely one, and let's use that up. So our first cup, mixing our gold, I'm actually going to use the Phloetrol, just because we have it. It's very good if you don't waste anything. And then I don't have to pour that back into the bottle. It's already in the cup. Okay, so you can see it's still very thick. It's always going to flow, but you can see how long it's taking for those little mounds to disappear. This is very, very thick. So let's add in some of our glue and water. I know from experience that I'm going to need at least 2 cups of pouring medium, or 2 parts of pouring medium for this. Give that a good stir. And you can see it looks white going in, but it completely disappears. Your paint will dry a little bit darker than it looks in the cup, so keep that in mind. So now we can see, how's it doing? It's looking pretty good. It's leaving a good mound, and that's partly because the glue and water is thinner than the Phloetrol. So that actually looks really, really good the way that it is right now. So I'm going to set that aside. And so there. So we've used 2 different kinds of pouring mediums. We've used glue and we've used Phloetrol. And they're fantastic, and those are the things that I use more often than anything else, and that's what I highly recommend that you start with as well. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something. Take some notes. There's nothing wrong with writing it down. That's very, very important. I have 1,000 notes from when I was new. I think I watched videos for a month and a half before I even bought a drop of glue and tried to do this myself. So take the time to learn, take the time to, you know, find out what's available in your area that you can use, and enjoy the videos. And, you know, people love to share their art, and that's why I'm sharing this with you, because it's wonderful for me, and I want you to have a wonderful experience making your own. So now you know about pouring medium, so please go and paint something and have some fun. Have a great day. Bye-bye.